Yo, what's happening? Coach C, what's good with you? Alright, man. So I'm sitting here thinking about this, man. I was just listening to some music, and the music it was Bone Thugs in Harmony. I don't get a chance too often to listen to some of the stuff I used to listen to. But I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. I always have since I was a teenager. But it brought up something. It reminded me of something that it was really it was good and it was bad. It was scary and it was awesome at the same time. Give me 1 second, man. This guy about to lock me in here. Anyways, so it was a good thing. It was a bad thing. It was something that really was like, it just made me realize a few things. I'm gonna tell you what I'm talking about here. So I was listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I'm listening to Days of Our Lives. And Busy Bone, when he started doing that, who wanna bag, you wanna bag, you wanna bag, you wanna bag, you wanna bag, send him out the door. Oh man, him and Crazy Bone really get me like, ooh, we're silly. You know what I'm saying? Just like you got that ugly face. Ooh, you know what I mean? And the point is in all that, when I was thinking about that, I started thinking about back to when I was a teenager, back to when I was about 13 years old, and the association in my brain, it was like something just clicked. Something was just like I just had this really great feeling. I just remember what it was like to be a kid again, as a teenager, and I remember everything I was doing at that point in time and everything I wasn't supposed to be doing, but it felt so good because it was such a good time in my life that when I heard that song, and I keep in mind, like, these are the dudes I grew up with: Bone Thugs, Tupac, Biggie, all these, Trick Daddy, you know what I'm saying, like all these great rappers. That's what I grew up listening to. And when I think about it, like, it made me feel so good, but at the same token it made me feel so ooh. And I'm gonna explain why. See, Bone Thugs and Harmony, when I was listening to them back in those days, I remember sitting in front of the TV. I remember it clearly. There's one morning I woke up and I popped in this. It was, at the time, it was on VHS, if you remember what those were. It was on VHS, it was a cassette, and I put it inside of the VCR. Put it inside the VCR, and I was watching the music videos. It was like the greatest hits. And it was Bone Thugs and Harmony, and it was Crossroads, and it was the Wee song, and it was all these other songs. And I remember seeing East 1999, and I remember seeing Busy Bone, like, with the bunny ear thing going on with the bandana. And then I flipped the tape over, and then I started watching some Tupac and stuff, and I was just sitting there like in awe. I was sitting there just like tripping out, like, man, this is crazy. This is dope. Like, that's who I want to be. That right there is what I want to be. And from that point, I really took on the identity of being a rapper, and of being a thug, of trying to be a thug, trying to be an emphasis on trying. So at that point, I started kind of acting up. I started not going to school as often and stuff. And needless to say, my mama got tired of it, and that's when she sent me out to Indianapolis, Indiana. So when I went out to Indianapolis, Indiana, I was like the only bald guy out there, the only Chicano, the only Mexican, like, for like 100-mile radius. And it was majority of Caucasians and African Americans, white and black folks, just in other words. And so I was like the only Mexican over there, and I was walking around with bandanas on my damn head. I was walking around with a penitent on myself, and I was walking around like a thug. And needless to say, around that time, that's when I started dabbling with the alcohol and with the drugs and with stuff like that. And that's why my mama sent me away. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the associations that I have with this. It was one of the greatest times of my life. I enjoyed it extremely. And at the same token, it was one of the worst times of my life because I had started doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I started having bad habits. So when you think about, when you flip on a song and you have that association in your head, when you flip on the TV and you see a show and you remember something that was going on around that time that you used to watch that show a lot, it can work for you or against you. You see, if I listen to the music all the time and I let myself get involved with this all the time, and I started thinking about, oh man, like, I remember back in the day, oh man, just sipping on that and smoking on that, and how good it felt. And all of a sudden, like, Coach would have a different life. I would have a completely different life from now. And so you got to understand that your associations, they can work for you or against you. Now, how do you make them work for you? You make them work for you by thinking about something that you had success with before. Let's say something that was completely cool, it's completely clean. You had success. Maybe you dropped weight before. Let's use this example. You dropped weight before, right? Maybe like at one point you dropped 10, 15 pounds and you felt awesome. Maybe you dropped 20 pounds and you felt fantastic. You felt top of the world. But then something came in between that time and now that made you gain those pounds back, or stop doing the habits that you had. There's an association there with the good times. There's an association with what you did. Like, because I run into people all the time like, oh, yeah, I know what it feels like. I've done it before and I felt great. So at that point, you need to think about, what did you do to have success? What were you feeling at the time? What were you listening to? Who were you around? Can you get around those people again? Can you listen to that music again? Can you go back to that place that allowed you to have that success? And then, and on the flip side of things, what do you need to avoid? What do you need to avoid in your life? What do you need to avoid to get you not feeling the opposite way of what you need to be feeling? The stuff that's going to take you the opposite direction. You see, if I started listening to half the music I used to listen to, if I started being around half the people I used to be around, I mean, it would probably be really, really bad. A bad scene, man. And not that I would be a bad person. I would just probably most likely start making some bad choices that would reflect some bad things to other people who know me now, who see me as a coach, who see me as this health freak. And if I started doing a 180, I mean, how much of that would I undo? Think about that. How much if tomorrow Coach C went and you seen him in the club and he was pounding all sorts of liquor, and then you see him on the weekends and you see him in some garage and he's puffing on a little bit of something, and there's some weights in the back and they ghetto as hell, but you know what, he's still working out. And then all of a sudden you see me partying every weekend, you see me doing all these things, like, you know, it would be a completely different scenery. It'd be completely different from what you're used to seeing from me. So your associations can work for you or against you. Now, with that being said, I limit my time to some of these activities that I do. I limit my time to listening to some of this music. I limit my time to watching some of these things that I used to watch or whatever it was, because with all those associations floating in my mind, I might just mess up and do something I shouldn't be doing. And the same goes for you. We all human. We all make mistakes. So, you know what it is. Coach C. I'm sorry there's no music in this one. I just had a little more to say. So see, look at this. 805, 806, 807. It's a little bit long. Peace out, y'all. Have a great day.